Happy Saturday, everybody. Happy Saturday. This is day 289. All right, beautiful people. That was pretty long. All right, beautiful people. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. It is October the 30th, 2021, day 289 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 957. Today we're going to be reading Psalm 48 through 51, and we're going to finish reading the introductions of Shakespeare's Secret Messiah from pages 60 to 65. Let's go ahead and get this shimmer going so we can get this started and get into this. Remember, the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Remember, I condensed it all, right? So go read the whole chapter. You should have been and read the full chapter by now, so you know what the whole thing said. I just pulled out the gist of it, right? Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. Pull this up right here. Psalm 48. All right. These, well, at least I know 50 and 51. They're a little bit longer than some of the shorter ones. All right, y'all. Obedience to Yah Shalom. Okay, y'all. All right, Psalm chapter 48. A song, a psalm of the descendants of Korah. How great is Yahuwah, how deserving of praise in the city of our God, which sits on his holy mountain. It is high and magnificent. The whole earth rejoices to see it. Mount Zion, the holy mountain, is the city of the great king. Yahuwah himself is in Jerusalem's towers, revealing himself as its defender. The kings of the earth joined forces and advanced against the city. But when it saw it, they were stunned. They were terrified and ran away. They were gripped with terror and writhed in pain like a woman in labor. You destroyed them like the mighty ships of Tarshish, shattered by a powerful east wind. We had heard of the city's glory, but now we have seen it ourselves, the city of Yahuwah, the God of heaven's armies. It is the city of our God. He will make it safe forever. O Yahuwah, we meditate on your unfailing love as we worship in your temple. As your name deserves, O Yah, you will be praised to the ends of the earth. Your strong right hand is filled with victory. Let the people on Mount Zion rejoice. Let all the towns of Judah be glad because of your justice. Go, inspect the city of Jerusalem. Walk around and count the many towers. Take note of the fortified walls and tour all the citadels, that you may describe them to future generations. For that is what Yahuwah is like. He is our God forever and ever, and he will guide us until we die. Psalm chapter 49. Which one is that for? Oh, it's showing. Oh. Okay. Okay. They unlocked it. Okay. Forever.
But it ain't done yet.
Right. Right. Okay.
Good credit and go ahead and do your video.
Psalm 49. Excuse us, y'all. We're working on building our credit. My husband says he was checking the score. He says he has great credit. How his credit get great before before mine? I'm the one working on all of it, right? Mine still say good, but he'll say great. Like, bro. Uh, uh, uh. Psalm 49 for the choir director, a psalm of the descendants of Korah. Listen to all this, all you people. Pay attention to everyone in the world, high and low, rich and poor. Listen, for my words are wise and my thoughts are filled with insight. I listened carefully to many proverbs and solved riddles with inspiration from a harp. Why should I fear when trouble comes, when enemies surround me? They trust in their wealth and they boast of riches, yet they cannot redeem themselves from death by paying a ransom to Yahuwah. Redemption does not come so easily, for no one can ever pay enough to live forever and never see the grave. Those who are wise must finally die, just like the foolish and senseless, leaving all their wealth behind. The grave is their eternal home where they will stay forever. They may name their estate after themselves, but their fame will not last. They will die just like animals. This is the fate of fools, though they are remembered as being wise. Like sheep, they are led to the grave, where death will be their shepherd. In the morning, the godly will rule over them. Their bodies will rot in the grave, far from their grand estates. But as for me, Yahuwah will redeem my life. He will snatch me from the power of the grave. So don't be dismayed when the wicked grow rich and their homes become ever more splendid. For when they die, they take nothing with them. Their wealth will not follow them into the grave. In this life, they consider themselves fortunate and they are applauded for their success. But they will die like all before them and never again see the light of day. People who boast of their wealth don't understand. They will die just like animals. Psalm chapter 50, a psalm of Asaph. Yahuwah, the mighty one, is God, and he has spoken. He has summoned all humanity from where the sun rises to where it sets. From Mount Zion, the perfection of beauty, Yahuwah shines in glorious radiance. Our God approaches, and he is not silent. Fire devours everything in his way, and a great storm rages around him. He calls on the heavens above and earth below to witness the judgment of his people. Bring my faithful people to me, those who made a covenant with me by giving sacrifices. Then let the heavens proclaim his justice, for Yahuwah himself will be the judge. O my people, listen as I speak. Here are my charges against you, O Israel. I am God, your God. I have no complaint about your sacrifices or the burnt offerings you constantly offer, but I don't need bulls from your barns or the goats from your pens. For all the animals of the forest are mine. I own the cattle on 1,000 hills. I know every bird on the mountains, and all the animals of the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for all the world is mine and everything in it. Do I eat the meat of bulls? Do I drink the blood of goats? Make thankfulness your sacrifice to Yahuwah, and keep the vows you made to the Most High. Then call on me when you are in trouble, and I will rescue you, and you will give glory to me. But Yahuwah says to the wicked, why bother reciting my decrees and pretending to be obedient to my covenant? For you refuse my discipline and treat my words like trash. When you see thieves, you approve of them, and you spend your time with adulterers. Your mouth is filled with wickedness, and your tongue is full of lies. You sit around and slander your brother, your own mother's son. While you did all this, I remained silent, and you thought I didn't care. But now I will rebuke you, listing all my charges against you. Repent, all of you who forget me, or I will tear you apart, and no one will help you. But giving thanks is a sacrifice that truly honors me. If you keep to my path, I will reveal to you the salvation of Yahuwah. Hold on, y'all. Facebook must not be showing. They inboxing me saying we're not doing the reading today. Let me see if they mess with the settings again, y'all. Hold on. Let me check it. Let's see. This is crazy. I don't know. They switch it to lock where only I can see. Hold on. This is weird. Why is it only me? That's crazy. I should have double checked it when nobody came in. Hold on. Yes. Hold on. Let me respond to her. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. Again, we live now. This, I don't know what happened, y'all. All right. So I'm going to just keep on reading. Okay, somebody came in. All right. I'm sorry. Facebook, they messing. I don't know. I didn't change it. We are not changing our settings. But we noticed, at least these last couple times, I don't know. Facebook is coming and changing my settings to private. Normally, you have to change those yourself, but I haven't uploaded anything in the last couple days, except for the morning video, and I have to keep changing it back to public view. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm gonna have to check into it, but I'm sorry, y'all. We've been here. All right, let me go back. All right, y'all. So last chapter for today, we done read 3 chapters already, Facebook. We read 49, 50, and 51. I'm sorry. No, 48, 49, and 50. We're about to read the last one. Okay, Psalm chapter 51. It's for the choir director, a psalm of David regarding the time Nathan the prophet came to him after David had committed adultery with Bathsheba. Have mercy on me, O Yah, because of your unfailing love, because of your great compassion. Blot out the stain of my sins. Wash me clean from my guilt. Purify me from my sin. For I recognize my rebellion. It haunts me day and night. Against you and you alone have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight. You will be proved right in what you say, and your judgment against me is just. For I was born a sinner, yes, from the moment my mother conceived me. But you desire honesty from the womb, teaching me wisdom even there. Purify me from my sins, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Oh, give me back my joy again. You have broken me. Now let me rejoice. Don't keep looking at my sins. Remove the stain of my guilt. Create in me a clean heart, O Yah. Renew a loyal spirit within me. Do not banish me from your presence, and do not take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and make me willing to obey you. Then I will teach your ways to rebels, and they will return to you. Forgive me for shedding blood, O Yahuwah who saves. Then I will joyfully sing of your forgiveness. Unseal my lips, O Yah, that my mouth may praise you. You do not desire a sacrifice, or I would offer one. You do not want a burnt offering. The sacrifice you desire is a broken spirit. You will not reject a broken and repentant heart, O Yah. Look with favor on Zion and help her. Rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Then you will be pleased with sacrifices offered in the right spirit, with burnt offerings and whole burnt offerings. Then bulls again will be sacrificed on your altar. All right, beautiful people. I'm sorry about that. I don't know. Can't really tell either unless somebody say, hey, you're not live, and then I'll go check it and notice. I'll check the privacy settings. But while I'm live, I can't check the privacy settings. I can check it beforehand, but I would have to like open up another, which is good why I got my laptop open, because I can open it up on the laptop and change it from there. I can't necessarily do it from my phone while I'm live on my phone. All right. All right, y'all. So picking back up, we're about to finish this introduction section. In I'll be ready to call it Caesar's Messiah, Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. Remember, it's the next book from Caesar's Messiah, going into more detail of everything. Trina Hager, hey mom, hey, Yahuwah is one. Yahuwah is the one. That's Jerry, right? I think you changed your name. I don't know, I could be wrong. But I'm just saying, y'all talk the same way. It could be, could not be. I don't know. Yes, I should know. All right, y'all. Page 60 in Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. This is the section entitled Lazarus, the Human Passover Lamb, and the Last Supper. Josephus tells a story which becomes the casus belli. I think that's what it is. Belli. The casus belli for Titus's final assault on the temple. Quote, I am going to relate a matter of fact, the like to which no history relates, either among the Greeks or the barbarians. It is horrible to speak of it, and incredible when heard. I had indeed willingly omitted this calamity of ours, that I might not seem to deliver what is so portentous to posterity, but that I have innumerable witnesses to it in my own age. End quote. There was a certain woman that dwelt beyond Jordan. Her name was Mary. Her father was Eleazar of the village Bethzab, which signifies the house of hyssop. And it was now become impossible for her any way to find any more food, while the famine pierced through her very bowels and marrow. She then attempted a most unnatural thing. I'm sorry, that wasn't end of the quote. That wasn't the end of the quote. I said end quote up there, but that's not the end of the quote. This is continuing. It was just a break. Okay. Her father was Eleazar of the village Bethzab, which signifies the house of hyssop. And now it is now impossible for her in any way to find any more food, while the famine pierced through her very bowels and marrow. She then attempted a most unnatural thing, and snatching up her son, who was a child suckling at her breast, she said, O thou miserable infant, for whom shall I preserve thee in this war, in this famine, and this sedition? Come on, be thou my food, and be thou a fury to these seditious varlets, and a byword to the world, which is all that is now wanting to complete the calamities of us Jews. As soon as she had said this, she slew her son and then roasted him and ate the one half of him and kept the other half by her concealed. Upon this the dishes came in presently the smelling of the horrid scent of this food. Hold on. Upon they should have put a comma. Upon this, the seditious came in presently, and smelling the horrid scent of this food, they threatened her that they would cut her throat immediately if she did not show them what food she had gotten ready. She replied that she had saved a very fine portion of it for them, and withal uncovered what was left of her son. She said to them, This is my own son, and what hath been done was my own doing. Come, eat of this food, for I have eaten of it myself. Every time I read this, y'all, I want to throw up. I just have to stop and take a breath, like imagining a mother killing her own baby and then cooking him and then eating him and then saving a portion to give. Um, okay. This is my own son, and what hath been done was mine own doing. Come, eat of this food, for I have eaten of it myself. Do not you pretend to be either more tender than a woman or more compassionate than a mother, but if you be so scrupulous and do abominate this my sacrifice, as I have eaten the one half, let the rest be reserved for me also. End quote. Wars of the Jews, 6.3, pages 199 to 211. Shayla, hey girl, hey. Josephus describes the incident as so portentous to posterity, but that I have innumerable witnesses to it in my own age. Why would this event be portentous to posterity? And how would Josephus have innumerable witnesses? With this introduction, Josephus seems to be signaling that this story represents an enigma to be solved. Although the event was reportedly discussed among many, there could be at most a few of the seditious who witnessed the cannibal Mary's display of half her son's carcass, and no witness at all to Mary's first speech or to the murder of the child. The timing of this incident at Passover, the reference to the house of hyssop, a plant used to mark Israelite houses at the time of Passover, and the statement that the child is roasted lead us to the conclusion that the child is a human Passover sacrifice. Thus, Josephus's tale represents a grimly concrete actualization of the spiritualized ritual of the Christian Eucharist. The names of Mary and Eleazar also suggest a possible relationship to the New Testament. In Luke chapter 2, verses 34 through 35, Simon gives Mary a prophecy that a sword will pierce through your own soul, a prophecy apparently fulfilled by the famine, which pierced through her very heart and marrow. Mary's abomination to the varlets to, I'm sorry, Mary's admonition to the varlets to come eat of this food is reminiscent of Christ's words at the Last Supper, and the mention of innumerable witnesses seems to be an echo of the multitudes who reportedly witnessed Jesus' resurrection, which indeed was a myth portentous to posterity. Mary describes the event as a myth for the world and a fury to the varlets that would complete the calamities of the Jews. At will further sees a pun on the words mythos or myth and mysos, an atrocity, and mesos, inspiring bitter hatred, in this case, the bitter hatred by the Romans against the Jews. This again seems uncalibrated and inappropriate as a commentary on the plight of the starving Jews. But if it's talking about the anti Semitic effects of the Christian myth against the Jews, it is tremendously perceptive, if not present. Present. And we'll note another odd parallel between the Josephus passage and the New Testament. Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42, and John chapter 12, verses 2 through 3, both describe a dinner at which Mary and Jesus are present and Martha is serving. If we assume that the two passages are both describing the same dinner, they may be taken together as follows. Quote, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. There they made him a supper. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. John 12, 2 through 3. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. One thing is needful. Mary has chosen the good portion, which shall not be taken away from her. And that's Luke chapter 10, verses 40 through 42. In this periscope, Lazarus has just recently been raised from the dead. However, he's been dead for 4 days, which is one day later than his soul. I'm sorry. However, he's been dead for 4 days, which is one day later than his soul would have departed from his body, according to Jewish lore. So, unless one is inclined to believe in very unlikely miracles from either a Gentile or Jewish perspective, Lazarus is nothing but a dead body. We also meet Mary, who is served a meal of good portion, which shall not be taken away from her. This, of course, is exactly the same portion that cannibal Mary has saved for herself of the child. And if Lazarus is dead, they made him a supper is an invitation to draw the conclusion that a macabre double entendre was intended. Okay. And if Lazarus is dead, they made him a supper is an invitation to draw the conclusion that a macabre double entendre was intended. Thus, to summarize, in Josephus, Mary is eating her child in the New Testament periscope. Mary logically seems to be eating the body of Lazarus, who allegedly was resurrected but is obviously dead. And according to Christianity's spiritualized interpretation, the believers are eating the body of Christ, the Son of Mary, after his alleged resurrection on the third day. The passages from Josephus and the New Testament are tied together primarily by the central and distinctive themes of the Eucharist and its association to cannibalism, the Passover sacrifice of Jesus, and the resurrection. But the grim joke is also pulled together by the very specific verbal motif of the good portion not taken away. The new root and branch. Although the new root and branch is a many tentacled and sprawling satire, it is relatively simple to understand. Atwill summarizes the system as follows. Quote, the purpose of this particular satire is to document that the roots and branch of Judaic messianic lineage has been destroyed and that a Roman lineage has been grafted on in its place. End quote, reference 219. A recurring aspect of the theme is that the character who is pruned is always named Eleazar. This, along with Eleazar's role in being made into a supper in the cannibal Mary parallel, leads Atwill to conjecture that Eleazar is an antitype for the true leader of the Jewish rebellion who was ignominiously pruned from history. The reader is encouraged to refer to Caesar's Messiah for further information about this theme, which is repeatedly employed by Shakespeare, as Atwill demonstrates in this volume. I'll read that again. Robert Williams, Shalom, Shalom. The reader is encouraged to refer to Caesar's Messiah for further information about this theme, which is repeatedly employed by Shakespeare, as Atwill demonstrates in this volume. Next section. Is Atwill guilty of parallelomania? Parallelomania. Parallelomania. That's what that says. Parallelomania. Yeah. Is Atwill guilty of parallelomania? Perhaps the most common objective to Joseph Atwill's work in Caesar's Messiah is that his premises are based on what is called parallelomania. Samuel Sandmill, Journal of Biblical Literature, chapter 81, pages 1 through 13, the 1962 edition, defined this error as follows. Quote, we might, for our purposes, define parallelomania as the extravagance among scholars which first overdoes the supposed similarity in passages and then proceeds to describe a source of derivation as if implying literary connection flowing in and inevitably or predetermined direction. The key word in my essay is extravagance. I am not denying that literary parallels and I am not denying that literary parallels and literary influence in the form of source and derivation exist. I am not seeking to discourage the study of these parallels. Detailed study is the criterion, and the detailed study ought to respect the context, but not be limited to juxtaposing mere excerpts. End quote. In his writing in Caesar's Messiah, Atwill was not primarily concerned with mounting a scholarly defense against these concerns. Instead, he was simply writing down the parallels as he encountered them in the text and exploring the implications of his particular interpretation. The same is true of this volume. It is mostly expository rather than analytical and comprehensive. Nevertheless, his study is certainly detailed, the parallels are certainly extensive, and Atwill paints a compelling historical context. In Caesar's Messiah, Atwill made an argument that the Gospels were all written together based on his solution of a puzzle embedded in the various Gospel accounts of the apostles in the empty tomb looking for Jesus. My view is that as a mathematical argument, this can be largely defeated based on the assumption that the author of the Gospel of John had access to the other three Gospels when he wrote his own version. Similarly, early editions of Caesar's Messiah included a statistical argument based on the sequential aspect of the parallels between Luke and Josephus, an argument that dismissed legitimate questions about the strength of the parallels, the possibility of common sources, the directionality of the parallels, and the effect of multiple comparisons. Frustrated by criticisms, Atwill produced the Flavian signature edition of Caesar's Messiah 2011 and provided many more parallels in the sequence relating to Josephus' Jewish wars to the Gospel of Luke. However, this was arguably going in precisely the wrong direction to satisfy the critics because the new parallels were in general not as convincing as the ones he had already identified. In the process of arguing from these new parallels, Atwill appeared to be violating Sandelmel's caution against overdoing the supposed similarity in passages. Rather than relying on a simple combinatorial analysis of Atwill's parallels, I would suggest that a more viable approach is to start by considering those parallels which have already been widely recognized. Atwill's interpretive framework is far more powerful than any other framework in terms of explaining all aspects of these ancient literary devices, especially the ironic, enigmatic, and humorous aspects. Once this is agreed to, the more obscure parallels in the Flavian signature can only add to Atwill's case, especially considering that most of these parallels are highly interpretable with the Flavian origins framework. It is certainly possible, as Atwill suggests, that the Romans themselves were well aware that the creation of a long sequence of literary parallels represents an indisputable statistical and combinatorial signature that the parallels were intentionally planted. If modern mathematical and experimental approaches to textual analysis can overcome critical objections based on multiple comparisons, considerations, and source criticism, then this combinatorial approach has the potential to provide an academically ironclad proof of the Caesar's Messiah thesis. The entire set of 46 parallels in the Flavian signature is presented in Caesar's Messiah, which, of course, reader the readers are encouraged to read and reach their own conclusions. The critics have certainly not met the burden of proof showing that there are any alternative source analysis or interpretations that could compete with Atwill's, or that these parallels are not compelling, or that his work fails to meet Sandmel's criteria of standing up to detailed analysis. However, fulfillment of any demand for a comprehensive, even Bayesian analysis of the relative probabilities of the Flavian origins hypothesis as compared to its competitors will need to await the attention of a better, or at least braver, mathematician. Meanwhile, it is my view that many of Atwill's critics are far more avid practitioners are far more avid practitioners of the science of parallelomania, and that other authors generally attempt to support parallel source analysis that are far weaker, while Caesar's Messiah builds a mountain of evidence that can only be explained by the Flavian origins thesis. So let's move on and learn about Atwill's new discoveries. And that, my beautiful people, is the end of the introduction. I'm debating. We only at 35 minutes in. It's Saturday. Adaya Shalom. Look, should I start chapter 1? Y'all want to stay for a little bit of chapter 1? We only at 35 minutes. I'm just saying. I could end it right now. This will be the shortest video that we have done in a while. I'll let somebody answer. First answer gets it. Stop or keep going. I'll let y'all choose today. I'm going to drink some of my hot, it's cold apple cider now. It's a lot better cold, hot. Nobody answering? Y'all want to hear some of chapter 1 today? Or wait till tomorrow? Keep going. All right. First answer gets it. Chapter 1 is entitled Shakespeare Decoded. In this chapter, I will explain the previously unrecognized symbolic system that stretches across all of the works of Shakespeare and provides them with their deepest level of meaning. Oh, the answer's coming in now. Keep going, keep going. Okay, we'll do. I will argue that the entire Shakespearean corpus was written solely to provide a vehicle for this symbolic system. This understanding also reveals the true author of the Shakespearean literature. Y'all got to pay attention too. I kind of skipped ahead a little bit and found I'm like, boy, Atwill and his detailed analysis and his attention to detail and ability to pull out stuff. I'm like, oh, snap. Y'all thought Caesar's Messiah would rock the world. Yo, let me keep reading. I'm not going to give it away. Listen, okay. Yo, it just brought so many things into perspective, but I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. I'm super excited about this. Okay, let me go back. Let me just start this little paragraph over. Shakespeare Decoded. In this chapter, I will explain the previously unrecognized symbolic system that stretches across all of the works of Shakespeare and provides them with their deepest level of meaning. I will argue that the entire Shakespearean corpus was written solely to provide a vehicle for this symbolic system. This understanding also reveals the true author of the Shakespearean literature. The purpose of this Shakespearean symbolic system was to reverse everything the Flavians had accomplished with the comic system of Josephus and the New Testament. Thus, whereas in the Gospels, hidden satire, the Jewish hold on, I'm reading that too fast. Okay. Thus, whereas in the Gospels, hidden satire, the Jewish royal family was ridiculed for having cannibalized themselves in the Shakespearean system, the Gentile royal family is ridiculed for having done so. And since the Gospels inserted a Roman into the Jews' royal lineage, in her literature, Jews would be inserted into the Gentiles' nobility. And just as Titus had fooled the Jews into worshiping Jesus, so Shakespeare would fool Gentiles into worshiping Shakespeare. They just kind of gave it away. I don't know if y'all just paid attention to what I said, but he kind of gave it away in this. I'm going to read it again. I ain't gonna point it out. I'm gonna just read it like I just read and see if you, because it kind of gives away who the author is of Shakespeare. Y'all probably didn't catch it, but I'm gonna read it again just for those who might have. The rabbit hole is sick, Adaya. Yo, look. I'm gonna go back a sentence before the sentence that gives it away. And I'm gonna tell y'all to pay attention when I get to the sentence y'all should be paying attention to. Okay. Let me just go back to the purpose of this Shakespearean symbolic system was to reverse everything the Flavians had accomplished with the comic system of Josephus and the New Testament. Thus, whereas in the Gospels hidden satire, the Jewish royal family was ridiculed for having cannibalized themselves, In the Shakespearean system, the Gentile royal family is ridiculed for having done so. Pay attention. And since the Gospels inserted a Roman into the Jews' royal lineage, in her literature, Jews would be inserted into the Gentiles' nobility. It was in that last sentence, and I'm going to keep going. And just as Titus had fooled the Jews into worshiping Jesus, so Shakespeare would fool the Gentiles into worshiping Shakespeare. This interpretive framework provides an explanation for many heretofore incomprehensible features of the plays. The reversal is the next section. There is a whole category of passages in Shakespeare's plays that are classified as puzzles by scholars because they have been unable to decode their meaning. Did y'all go back and watch Hamlet or any of Shakespeare's plays like Romeo and Juliet yet? If you haven't, if you get a chance, before we start getting into it, if you're not familiar with it, I don't really care which version you watch. I'll post it. Did my post? I looked it up. I gotta go back and check and see because I looked it up and then I got sidetracked. I need to double check and see if I posted it. Because I made the whole little thing, but I'll post it here today. A couple different ones you should probably look at. If you have never looked at any of Shakespeare's plays, I would recommend at least just go get familiar with it so you can kind of stay on track while he's pulling some of this stuff out, while he links it to the Flavians and the New Testament and all the foolery that's been happening. I'm telling you. Okay. All right. Look. I'll read this over. There is a whole category of passages in Shakespeare's plays that are classified as puzzles by scholars because they have been unable to decode their meaning. A good example of this is the analysis of Julius Caesar by Steve Sommer. He has been able to identify detailed uses of the New Testament in the characterization of Caesar, Antony, and Cassius, as well as parodies of church services and hymns, but he could not provide an explanation as to why the playwright would embody these parodies of Christian imagery in a play about a Roman emperor. Another example is the work by Alice Lyle Scophos on Falstaff, showing that the character appears to be a satire of Jesus, but again, she could not explain why the playwright had created such a representation. And that's reference 32. I missed seeing a couple of references, but that's reference 32. Many critics have simply avoided commenting on passages for which they cannot offer an explanation. This is a poor methodology, and few scholars have been as honest as Sommer and Scophos in admitting that they are not able to understand much of the underlying symbolism of the plays. Ooh, ain't it? Adiah said crazy. This is some serious deception and witchcraft. Y'all ain't even got to the half of this yet. Y'all don't even know the half of this yet. Yo, just keep listening. The following passage from Hamlet is an example of a Shakespearean puzzle that has not been decoded by critics. In the passage, Hamlet is said to have read a book that describes people with weak hams, Hams, weak like, oh, I feel weak hams, and most strangely having eyes purging thick amber and plum tree gum. Okay, quote, Hamlet reading a book. Slanders, sir, for the satirical rogue says here that, yes, baby. Get the chair and get it, Paul. Get the chair. Just be careful. Go ahead. Okay, grab it. I'm sorry. Hurry up, hurry up. Okay, very good. Now close it up. Close it. Get you a spoon. Close it up. Okay. Slanders. Sir, for the satirical rogue says here that old men have gray beards, that their faces are wrinkled, their eyes purging thick amber and plum tree gum, and that they have a plentiful lack of wit, together with most weak hams, all which, sir, though I powerfully and potentially believe, I'm sorry, and potently believe, yet I hold it not honesty to have it thus set down. For yourself, sir, should be old as I am, if like a crab you could go backward. Now, that sounds like a bunch of blah blah blah. What? It's just this is how they wrote and made, but I'll read it again, right? Okay. He about to explain it, but I'm gonna read it again. Sir, I'm sorry, slanders. Sir, for the satirical rogue says here that old men have gray beards, that their faces are wrinkled, their eyes purging thick amber and plum tree gum, and that they have a if I buy a huge tub of ice cream, doesn't that normally mean that the ice cream is for everybody that lives in the house?
No. No, it's for my birthday.
Well, your birthday is coming up, but didn't necessarily get it for your birthday. Your birthday is still a few days away. So that's for before your birthday anytime. But you're not getting that right now. Move. I'm trying to read this. Move. Die. Their eyes purging thick amber and plum tree gum, and that they have a plentiful lack of wit, together with most weak hams, all which, sir, though I most powerfully and potently believe, yet I hold it not honesty to have it thus set down. For yourself, sir, should be old as I am, if like a crab you could go backward. Guys, out. And that's volume 2 of Hamlet 2 and 14 through 22. Remarkably, the passage has drawn little attention from critics, even though it is Hamlet's reading of the unnamed book that precipitates his madness. Perhaps this lack of interest is because the passage contains so many questions that critics cannot answer. What was the book that Hamlet read, and who was the satirical rogue that wrote it? Who were the people described as having weak hams and a lack of wit? And why did the author characterize them like that? Why was it not honest to have set it down thus if Hamlet potently believes what was written was true? Moreover, why did Hamlet have such a profound reaction to the information he received from the book? The thesis presented in this work answers all these questions concerning the passage. In fact, it can be explained, it can, it can explain virtually every passage in the Shakespearean literature because they were all created within the symbolic framework that the thesis identifies. In some ways, the findings of this work are related to pre existing scholarship. There is already a specialist literature on the over 2,000 biblical allusions in the works of Shakespeare. Writers like Stephen Marks have attempted to explain the organizing principles that underlie the religious references in the plays. Reference 33. There have also been a few scholars who have wondered if some interaction with a Jew might have influenced Shakespeare to write The Merchant of Venus, and identifying Christ's parallels in the plays is certainly not new. In fact, as Richard Levin has observed, almost every play has critics who have identified a possible Christ figure, sometimes several. That's reference 34. G. Wilson Knight has argued that the unique act of Christ's sacrifice was central to all the tragedies. Reference 35. He assumed that Shakespeare was writing to support the conventional Christology of the Church of England by providing a representation of the events in the Gospels, but he could not explain findings like those of Sommer, who demonstrated that the Christian images in Julius Caesar are hostile satires of the Gospels rather than straightforward allegory. Virtually all critics have assumed that a Christian wrote the plays of Shakespeare. That the I'm sorry. Virtually all critics have assumed that a Christian wrote the plays of Shakespeare, even though this premise has not led to any clear understanding of their underlying symbolic structures. This is the same situation that scholars face when trying to understand the Gospels. The Gospels are generally seen as a sincere description of the ministry of a Jewish teacher written by his followers, but this approach leaves many mysteries unsolved. However, the enigmatic aspects are transparently resolved once the New Testament is recognized as the product of the intellectual circle that surrounded Titus Flavius. So it has been with the works of Shakespeare. Though scholars have tried at length to fathom the many seemingly incoherent passages within the literature, their time would have been better. The meaning of many of the passages becomes visible. Where we at? 51 minutes? Okay. We might get to read these next two sections. Okay. The symbolic level in Shakespeare. That's the title of this next section. The preface to Shakespeare's first folio states that the plays were written more to be studied than performed, thus acknowledging that, unlike most plays, their deeper meaning could only be understood by an alert reader. At the pace that the plays at the pace that the play's lines are spoken during a performance, it is sometimes difficult to analyze their subtext, even if one understands the symbolic framework that they were created within. The hidden level of Shakespeare is, in one sense, typical of the literary style of that era. Elizabethan playwrights had, as Pensis wrote, quote, developed strategies of indirection and allusion, of ambiguity and suggesting, of hinting through seemingly trivial facts to accomplish what Martin Butler called signaling according to cautious codes. By using such signals, a playwright might hope to stay out of trouble, for these were the ways that he could imply meaning, enabling him to express himself on subjects that, though forbidden, were of intense concern. End quote. And that's reference 36. And you'll find that in the back. Since such literary codes were common at this time, it should be expected to find such a system in plays that are as clearly symbolic as Shakespeare's. Virtually all scholars agree that King Lear has multiple subtexts. For example, though they cannot agree as to what they mean. One critic claimed that the play is a description of King James' plans for the British Union. Others have seen it to be as a comment on Jesus' passion and death. As Ann Patterson complained 30 years ago, there has been no satisfactory resolution of the inquiry into the strategies of indirection of Shakespeare's plays, whereby their symbolic meaning has been decoded to the satisfaction of the majority of scholars. Reference 37. Certainly, the best example of the lack of agreement between scholars has been their interpretation of Christ's figures. Richard Levin noted in his review of Measure for Measure that one critic proposed the Duke as a Christ figure, another Marina, another Isabella, and yet another Angelo. Reference 38. These contradictory findings were caused by the use of vague criteria, which Levin rightly criticized. If a character can be identified as a Christ figure because he moves from one station in life to another, resists evil or temptation, suffers or dies, loves or forgives others, then such criteria is applicable to almost every character. Moreover, if the case of parodies is included, where the critics identify the same linkage except in reverse, then one can barely miss in an identification of a character as a depiction of Jesus. This work aims for a different standard. It seeks to demonstrate that the Shakespearean corpus was created as an allegorical counterattack of the satire in the New Testament, and that the master list of the components of the Flavian comic system below is the basis for the entire symbolic level of Shakespeare. Shalom, Josiah. All right, the Flavian comic system, and it's given this list of 9 bullet points. Okay, the Flavian comic system. The first bullet point is the cutting off of the Jewish Messiah's limbs. The next one is the uprooting of the messianic root. The next one, the grafting of a Roman onto the Jewish lineage. The next one, the switching of Titus for the Jewish Messiah. The next one, the cannibalism of itself by the Jewish royal family. The next one, the Decius Mundus puzzle, Paulina seduced by Mundus, though he is no god. The next one, the raping and muting of Judea. The next one, the false chronology employed to prove Daniel's prophecies. And the last one, the comedy of errors in the empty tomb puzzle. This list is the basis of my analysis that resolves so many otherwise incoherent aspects of the Shakespearean plays. For example, in Romeo and Juliet, there is no obvious meaning to the numerous characters who are described as flowers, or for the play being set in the days leading up to the Christian feast of Lammastide. No obvious dramatic reason for Romeo's death to correspond to the simultaneous uprooting of a mandrake plant. No reason why Juliet should cross her parents. No reason why one of the characters should be called Mercutio, nor any reason for the chronology given in the prophecy that predicts Juliet will fall backwards. Nor has any critic provided any real explanation for the mass carnage at the play's end. But these diverse and seemingly unrelated elements are all explicable by the interpretive framework provided by the Flavian comic system. The next section, Shakespeare, the perfect Gentile. I'm gonna read this. After this section, that'll be the last one. We're gonna go a little bit over an hour, a couple minutes. The Elizabethan state referred to the basis for its authority as its divine right. This combination of church and state was a restrictive pall that made it theologically impossible to question the state's right to rule or how it ruled. Despite being few in number, the Jews were a special focus of Elizabethan Christianity. Jews were seen as a threat to the state's authority because their religion challenged the historical claims of Christianity, and anyone caught practicing Judaism was executed. If y'all just think just a little bit more and what we know today, and even with the identity switches of the people and how America was in cahoots with the Vatican and the Jewish state of Israel to kind of bring it, guys. This rabbit hole gets so deep. Yo, look, this rabbit hole gets so deep. Look, okay, listen. During this era in Britain, it was therefore necessary for Jews to pretend to have converted to Christianity and to perform Christian rituals such as such as the taking of communion. To observe the sacraments of a religion someone saw as false would be difficult under any circumstances, but for a Jew who understood the real meaning of the ritual, receiving the Eucharist would have been an unimaginably macabre experience. And there may have been many such Jews. In this book, I argue that Shakespeare must have been just such a crypto Jew who decided to fight back against the false religion that gave the Gentile nobility the divine right to execute her people for practicing their faith. There, it said it again, if y'all didn't catch it, about the real identity of who Shakespeare was. I'll read it again. I'm going to keep going. Listen. And there may have been many such Jews. In this book, I argue that Shakespeare must have been just such a crypto Jew who decided to fight back against the false religion that gave the Gentile the nobility, the divine right to execute her people for practicing their faith. To attack the state overtly was suicide, so a more subtle method had to be found. This method was the works of Shakespeare. To understand the analysis in this work, it is important for the reader to bear in mind that the author of the Shakespearean plays was not trying to directly communicate the truth about the Christian Gospels. There would have been far easier ways for the playwright to have accomplished that than the complex satirical system embedded in the Shakespearean literature. On the contrary, it was crucially important for the author to maintain a level of plausible deniability to prevent government censorship or other repercussions, while also presenting an enormously entertaining and ingenious surface level narration that will keep audiences entranced. I believe that the unmistakable presence of a profound and unsolved mystery also lends to the unique appeal of the Shakespearean literature and the enduring loyalty of Shakespeare's many fans. An ancient Latin proverb holds that a word to the wise is sufficient, and the author can testify that the Flavian Shakespearean comic system becomes much more transparent with familiarity. That's why I told y'all might want, if y'all not familiar with some of the plays from Shakespeare, you should probably go watch them. You don't. I'm not saying you have to, but you will understand a lot more. And as he begins to break down some of these things and pull some of these things out, right? He said it becomes easier to understand with familiarity. Just like with the scripture I was explaining the other day, when you're familiar with it, you can begin to put things together because you're able to put pieces of the puzzle together. And that's how things began to kind of click for me, because I had been reading the Old Testament so much. It caused questions to come up. In the first half of my life, all I ever read was the New Testament. So as I began to get more familiar with the entire book, not just the New Testament, because I can pretty much almost recite it verbatim, right? But the Old Testament, not so much, until I began to read it over and over and over again, right? Familiarity helps you to put pieces of the puzzle together, right? Okay, listen. An ancient Latin proverb holds that a word to the wise is sufficient, and the author can testify that the Flavian Shakespearean comic system becomes much more transparent with familiarity. It is therefore likely that those in the author's inner circle would have come away from the theater with a degree of understanding and delight that far surpassed their Gentile compatriots. However, listen, I'm gonna say it, about to say it again. Listen, well, at least over here, I'm not sure about any other place, but at least over here in America, when we think Shakespeare, the way Shakespeare is presented to us and how we read about it, we already have this picture in mind. And even the picture that they put up of Shakespeare, we have this picture in mind when we hear Shakespeare, right? Listen, Adiah, you on to it. Look, listen. However, let me go back. It is therefore likely that those in the author's inner circle would have come away from the theater with a degree of understanding and delight that far surpassed their Gentile compatriots. However, Shakespeare intended that her satires remain largely unappreciated until after the collapse of Christianity, that she no doubt hoped would occur shortly. Adiah said, It is said that the true writer of Shakespeare plays was an African American woman, Israelite perhaps. Did anyone ever hear that? Well, this is going to break down who Shakespeare really was. And they are right. Shakespeare is actually a woman. It's a playwright. It's her stage name, right? A lot of us that originally heard about Shakespeare always thought Shakespeare was this old Caucasian man, right? Well, it's going to break that down. Look, I read the sentence again. However, Shakespeare intended that her satires remain largely unappreciated until after the collapse of Christianity, that she no doubt hoped would occur shortly. In this way, she could deliver the same blow to the Gentiles that Titus intended for the Jews, though often interpreted as an effort to elevate humanity. At their deepest level, the works of Shakespeare were intended to inflict the same sense of humiliation on the uncomprehending Gentiles that Titus intended for the Jews. As was mentioned in the introduction, it is also important to note that it is not necessary to accept the analysis presented in Caesar's Messiah in order to agree with the thesis of this work. All that is required is to recognize that the author of the Shakespearean literature had come to the same conclusions regarding the Gospels given in that work, whether they are correct or not. Then, having come to these conclusions, she created the literature as a counterattack to the satirical system she believed existed in the Gospels. Adiah. Yup. The starting point for her Shakespearean project was a play satirizing Titus's invention of Christianity entitled Titus Andronicus. She designed the play so that its satirical level would be invisible until Titus was understood to have been Jesus, at which point its real meaning would become clear. She did not, of course, give her name as the play's author, choosing instead to use a witty nom de plume. As a Jew and a woman claiming authorship would have been problematic in any case, but she had another reason for her pen name. Oh, this is so good! Though a Gentile actor may have been the inspiration for her nom de plume, the original spelling of his last name was not Shakespeare. The actor's real name was more likely spelled the way it was recorded on his marriage license to Anne Hathaway, William Shakespeare, Shagspere. The playwright was clever with words and saw that by modifying the spelling of Shakespeare to Shakespeare, she would create a declaration of Jewish defiance. With the name of her perfect Gentile, she notified posterity that the Jews had not been destroyed by Titus by his false Judaism, but would keep on fighting. Will Shakespeare. This is why the first folio, William Shakespeare, was abbreviated and hyphenated to Will Shakespeare, so as to show posterity more clearly the name's satirical meaning. To the actor Shakespeare, the change in the spelling of his name would have been of little concern because, like the vast majority of people from Stratford, he was completely illiterate. For his complicity in the plot, Shakespeare was apparently paid part of the play's royalties, which enabled him to become a landowner in Stratford. The other reason for her nom de plume was simply to create the impression the plays were the work of a Gentile. This was part of her plan to create a mirror image of the Gospels. The Gospels appeared to be written by Jews, but were actually written by Roman intellectuals ridiculing Jews. She therefore wished to create the impression that the plays were the words of a Gentile, although they were actually those of a Jewish intellectual ridiculing Gentiles. In this way, she applied the Hebrew dictum of an eye for an eye, or in her words, measure for measure. All right, y'all. And that is where we're going to end our reading for today. Y'all, this is getting good. This is just the first chapter. We just found out that Shakespeare was really a woman.
Look, it sounds like some doggone General Hospital.
Yo, that's what it seemed like. Let me cut my stories on today. Let me get caught up.
Be quiet.
Y'all used to watch the stories. That's what we called them.
Grew up with the story. When you black, you grew up with doggone stories. It wasn't stories. It was One Life to Live. No, it was General Hospital. Then it was One Life to Live. In that order.
General Hospital was my jank.
It was mine too. Doggone it. Listen here, I got hooked on that crap. I'm telling you, man, it's a curse, man. It's really a curse, yo.
Look, this is getting good like this. Hold on. I had to put the wrong page number because I thought we went all the way to page 75. All right, y'all. If y'all don't have the book, you don't have to get it. I ain't getting paid for it, but I'm just saying it's a good reference to have, especially if you already have Caesar's Messiah. You got to have them both together because they do the full picture of the satire, the gospel, and everything. Shakespeare is taught in the schools in Ghana, the dumbed down effect. Yeah. Trina said the Young and the Restless. Yeah, I used to watch the Young and the Restless.
You know what it is, Trina. If you black, you grew up with that, Jack. Yes, you did.
Mom,
Yes,
you
baby.
better.
they didn't let me watch something.
Okay.
And then you better not
Sure.
had turned the TV. We had the doggone flow. What is it?
The flow model.
The flow model. You had to turn like tip.
Did y'all have pliers on y'all's?
Now, you remember back in the day after we went from the flow model to turn it, you went digital. You remember you used to have a box up top?
Right.
You had to, you know what I mean? You go to doggone channel 12, you go, quit turning that TV so fast.
Yeah, that little knob.
It was a 10 box.
Uh-huh.
It like a little house when you turn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to turn, you know what I mean?
Yeah, honey about to karate kick y'all.
What?
In the neck. Honey don't play. Boy, I tell you a story about honey.
Man, my grandma used to talk about you in front of your face. Like, you know I'm still sitting here, right?
And I didn't do anything. I was the sweetest little girl. I really was. But
after you left 1821, you question yourself.
I'm like,
I did it every day. I question myself.
Gosh. Am I really? Wait, how does she look at me? How do I present myself when I walk in the house? Hey, Tootie, stop. Go get some Carmex, girl. Go get the Carmex. Put on your lips. Up here singing in here. Okay, y'all. But enough of our shenanigans today. Look, this is getting good.
Mommy.
More on the Young and the Restless tomorrow. Y'all just got to tune in at the same time, right?
Stop promoting the folk like that.
But it's true. They probably never see this. But anyway. All right, y'all. It is Saturday, October the 30th, 2021. Day 289 of year 3.
That you would never see again.
Never, ever.
October 30th, 2021. You'll never see it.
Year 3. Day 957 of the 3-year consecutive day count. Y'all, we read Psalm chapter 48 through 51, and we finished reading the introduction in Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. And we started in chapter 1 and read all the way up to page 75. Did you go put some on your lips? No, you just looked at it. Yeah.
That's all she did.
All right, y'all. So you was always taught you were over a half century old. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the blessing.
I already did. I see it.
Okay, but for real, y'all, if y'all haven't seen some of them plays by Shakespeare, I'll go ahead because I think I just got them. I got them ready, and I forgot to paste them in the description. I'll go back and check if I didn't. I paste them back on that video a couple days ago. And then I also post them here. Give me a few minutes. I'll make sure it's done within the next hour. That way, if you haven't seen any of those plays by Shakespeare, you can you kind of get familiar with it. So as it start bringing some of that stuff out, you be like, oh, okay, so I remember that from there, right? And it's good. They have a lot of them in movie form, or Audible. If you like to listen to it, you can probably download some of the Audibles. But it'll probably be a lot faster. You can go read the books too, but it'll probably be a lot faster to watch the movie, right? But okay, so let's go ahead and do the blessing. Girl, don't you knock my mug over.
Got some. It's icy.
Hot. It's cold now. You gotta heat it up. Hot apple cider. All right.
Yeah, you just smelled it.
Talane, hey girl, hey. All right, y'all. Girl, look, give me this pen for you. Poke me. Let it go. Thank you. All right, y'all. Remember, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. That is it for today. What, Pooh?
You didn't do this.
Oh. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Okay, y'all.
Icy.
Okay.
Melted.
That's it, y'all. We're about to go and get out of here. See y'all tomorrow, bright and early. 7:30 is the weekend. 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, y'all. And I gotta double check and make sure they didn't change my privacy settings tomorrow for Facebook.
There you go.